I said on my YouTube page that I will separate this video into a few shorter videos, but nah, here is a long video with everything that's gone wrong in The Last of Us 2. I'm a huge fan of Naughty Dog, and my history with the old Naughty Dog goes back to the brick era of gaming, where we could counter polygons on the screen and a certain bandicoot shook up the game industry, as AC/DC shook me all night long as I tried to stick a fork into an electro socket to charge some energy for this video, because I don't snort G Fuel like the big channels to get the extra energy. Kids, don't snort G Fuel please, it was just a joke. But hey, I needed some extra energy to bear with the crap I saw in The Last of Us 2.
You hear yourself?
Please bear with me in this video because this rant is gonna hit biblical proportions. I tried to keep this video short as possible, but there are just too many things to talk about, and too many things that pissed off me and probably 3 basements full of nerds who love this game. I'm joking, alright? There are a lot of more of us. The first game blew me away. With its huge budget, it achieved a deep, compelling story and a satisfying combat system. The whole presentation, the emotions we felt, and how the plot unfolded felt so real and so relatable. Joel and Ellie grew on us as characters. How all this went down the toilet and we got an emotional rollercoaster ride from, and most importantly, bad story pacing we are going to see in this sequel game that was released by Naughty Dog in 2020. As we see, the Metacritic score are divided from the best game ever to the worst game ever. I don't really rely so much on the scores, but if you see such a difference, be prepared for some controversy. The game got even so much controversy even before it was released, from the reworked trailers, bans on any news regarding the deeper story, to lying about some parts of the game. Because we are just stupid consumers and we don't see any difference, you may Naughty Dog. Like in the first part, when you see the doctor, oh yeah, spoilers are arriving, so be prepared, okay? 3, 2, 1. The doctor in the first part is in green, dirty clothes, where the sequel shows him in clean and bright color clothing. The tactic behind that was to make us think that in the first part he was a bad doctor who wanted to kill Ellie, and now in the next part we are led to believe he was a nice and honest doctor. But this gets worse with every minute you watch the video, I promise you, I swear on Abby's life. Oh, you don't know who Abby is? The test injecting supervillain? Well, we will get to that part, don't worry, be patient my young viewer. We will talk about in this video how Naughty Dog slashed its fanbase into 2 groups, and I will also debate if the game is worth playing. Despite Naughty Dog deliberately was trying to manipulate our emotions throughout the whole game. If you didn't feel that way, I will try my hardest to pinpoint what did the Naughty Dog do. Now, I welcome you to the RPG show. You can call me Snorky, and today we are going to take a look at The Last of Us Part 2. I will dissect this video into few parts, so I will talk about the gameplay, but most importantly about the story, and of course about the main characters. If you're interested only in certain parts, that's also great because I have timestamps, so use them. So before we start, would you kindly smash that like button, share the video among your friends who are maybe interested in gaming videos, and of course subscribe if you're new. It will help to grow the channel so I can post even more stuff you enjoy to watch. Plus I post on weekly basis all sorts of videos about gaming. Let's get started. So first let's address the outdated gameplay Naughty Dog used in this game. The gameplay didn't change much for the first game, it's more or less the same. So if it's not broken, don't fix it. Yeah, let's say that this statement doesn't work here.
Yeah.
Let me explain why. They added a few more things but also strip away a few more things. Now you will be just like in the first game, running and gunning your way throughout some amazing places, but the main focus of the game is still stealth encounters. Let's address the first problem. Joel needs to craft shivs where Ellie can spam shiv attacks to infinity and beyond. It's sarcastic, as this is somewhat a survival game, so I don't know why did they make this decision. They could also implement a better storage system where we need to decide which items we wanna carry because of the limited space, so we are limited on the things we can carry and craft. This would make the whole combat so much deeper. Just a suggestion. This game also possesses some light RPG elements, but they're all pretty simple, just a few skill trees. But these trees aren't some special trees. There are 5 simple trees with only a 1 goddamn pathway to follow. Boring. We are talking about a AAA game, okay? Here I need to apply some harsh criticism. I would let this slide in a review where I talk about an indie game, but not a AAA game. I wouldn't say that those kill trees play a big role on the easier difficulty, because the game was forgiving and I think I would made it without most time. You can carry up your torches. I play the game on medium. Oh, let me correct myself. Moderate difficulty. Do you know what's also moderate? The will of Naughty Dog to try to implement something new and fun into the gameplay. But stop, I need to say some positive stuff, because people will think I hate this game and I'm only trying to poop on it. Do you know what's great? The rope. Yeah, the rope was such a goddamn good thing, and some poor soul worked hard to give us the best rope physics in gaming history, and then it was only used for a few times. And just once in a way where I really felt awarded for the extra mile. It was the part where you're gonna break the glass to toss the rope from the inner side to climb up. Why we didn't see more of this? Why we couldn't use this rope as something to trap the enemies? You know, those guys who wanna blow your brains out and paint the walls with them, so you can hide it somewhere and use it as a trap, like Joel gets trapped in the first part, or how did Abby get caught, or even Ellie later on. Well, pardon me, Mr. Big Naughty Dog. Also, landmines? I could sneak around them, but you wouldn't let me use them. Huh? Even if they are coded and put into a game, it was like licking the window of a candy store. I only felt dust and disappointment, because I imagined 10 ways of how I could use this in a combat, not like the smoke bombs where I think I used them only once. Don't ask, I'm a simple guy. If I can see an enemy, I shoot the enemy. If I'm in trouble, I lure them to me and I stab them 23 times, Warg style, because the enemy isn't the smartest. I don't know if it gets any better on harder difficulty, but I assume they only get tougher. So the next big problem, The Last of Us 2 is just too easy on moderate difficulty, if this makes any sense. And this comes from a player who isn't any good. So the difficulty determines on how many supplies you can find through the game, and I was overwhelmed. I had even a nickname for myself, Hoarder the Hoarder. Oh no! Bad joke, I know. Still, I was constantly full on ammo and supplies. What later really disconnected me from the game, because I knew I could go fully Rambo style. I land a few stealth kills, then it's open seasons on those sons of bitches. And a few minutes later I would be again fully stocked up. So harder difficulty is recommended to jump in. So how many problems did I mention at this point? Not enough, you say? Okay, I have few more cards up my sleeve. Now, what do you think about squares? Now, what are your thoughts on quick time events? What would you say if I tell you life depends on pressing square and only square? Because square will lead us the way and show us the path. No, it really does, because every goddamn quick time event is based on pressing square like a madman to dodge attacks, to pull, to push, to eat ass, and so on. It's ridiculous, but I need to mention this. If some of you watched my review of The Order 1886, I commented on how you need to first look out for the button you need to press, and if a small studio can put up with the effort, so could Naughty Dog. I know that the quick time events are engaging and cinematic, but if 30% of your gameplay revolves around pushing square, it feels like... As I'm already on a shitting spree, let's talk about the puzzles. I wouldn't say that the puzzles are bad, but they are simple to figure out and you don't need a PhD, alright? You need to turn on switches, push dumpsters, and so on. After doing certain puzzles you will block your way you came, so it's very predictable. The Uncharted games had more emphasis on this segment, but they could also give some effort to do more complex puzzles in this game so it doesn't get boring and predictable.
Wait a second.
Nothing.
Won't you take me down? Put me down.
I think you do.
No, tally the entry code. For what?
The first game I would say was pretty strict and linear. Like a mouse trapped in a maze, you need to fight off every other rat to find the cheese and the door out. But The Last of Us 2 changed that formula, as we could experience Seattle in its full post-apocalyptic glory. What was great to explore random areas and sneak around, but the problem was after those few hours it went back to the linear game style. Why would you give us freedom and then take it away? It's like playing catch with your dog dog and throwing the ball somewhere he can reach it. Same like with the mines and the rope. You don't do such a things, okay? Anyway, as I already talked about dogs, I need sadly to inform you there are also dogs in this game which will attack you, so you know where I'm going. But why did so many people hate this? Please don't get me wrong, but like in Far Cry you blow the whole animal kingdom to oblivion, however it felt like this game just got more criticism about it. I wish they could at least leave the scene out where Ellie takes out Alice, or at least give it a goddamn heads up or a skip button, because this part doesn't contribute to the story at the slightest. Well, it was again just for the shock value. One great addition they put in the game are the running sequels. Yes, you heard me right. One more positive thing, I am not full on Grinch mode today, you see? It's like in Crash 2 where you need to avoid the boulder, but instead of running away from a boulder, you are running away from the Mushroom Man. They are heavily scripted but still fun. I could only give them credit for including them into the game. Overall, I had mixed feelings about the gameplay, because it was more or less the same as the first game, but instead of playing the game around 10 hours, you were playing the game, in my case at least, almost 210 freaking hours. Yeah, you heard me right. Wait, what? 210? This can't be right. Ah, it's in dog years. Why is it in dog years? Anyway, it took me 30 human hours to finish this game. So, where the combat was okay, it was too simple and too repetitive and too predictable to be enjoyed more than original 10 hours like we saw in the first game. They simply needed to put more stuff into the game to keep the player more entertained.
Hold up.
Just stating my opinion, because when you get to the last part of the game you will feel fatigued. Before we go to the last part, how awesome was they included the girl playing PlayStation Vita with Hotline Miami on it. One of my favorite games in recent history. Sorry, I just needed to mention that. So, let's go to the next chapter. So to the story. Please, I beg you to bear with me this one, because it will get chaotic very fast. The biggest problem with this game is how the story is structured. Many movies use this tactic where they focus on two separate characters at the same time, to mirror the story, so to say. And over time they were building to the grand finale, to the Big Bang. I didn't have that in mind when I said Big Bang. Who edited this? Where is my editor? Oh yeah, I'm the editor. Fuck. But the whole writing is presented to the player in a way you see many different characters who are just boring. Now, of course, the story doesn't orbit around the side character, then they wouldn't be called side characters, but rather main characters. But to use them only for the purpose of to be canon meat is also not good. But you can show me characters what should be somehow important, like Jesse and Isaac, and then kill them off and never mention like they never existed. The only impactful thing a side character did is Jesse. He impregnated Dina and then he got... That's, I think he did what carries on to the story, so to say. Plus, the hideous flashbacks are just... When you go into a flashback and then again into another flashback, you start to lose touch with reality. This is a huge problem if not executed right, because it will feel like a filler episode and the gamer feels it. And at the end of the day, he only feels dragged by his nose. But in the second half of the game, what Naughty Dog tried to hide from the public, we got to introduce to the almost cartoon-like super buff villain Abby. And then we need to see her flashbacks, because we are retracing her steps to the point she meets Ellie in a certain point in the game. So the story is set into two separate timelines, the timeline of Ellie and then the timeline of 3 days before Abby meet Ellie. Now I will dive in depth with every character, so let's start with Abby, then we will move on. Now, why is Abby so hated? Where is the problem? Why is she generally disliked? Try to say that to her face. I dare you. The problem is that Abby isn't just a fleshed out character. She's just a maxed out character. Look at those arms. The only point of Abby's existence is to get us away from the main story. This is the feeling you get when you're playing the game. Of course that Naughty Dog didn't plan it this way. Again, when we mix some flashbacks, what doesn't contribute to her story so much and even less to the big picture, it's a problem. If you look deeper at Abby, why is she hated? Because she killed Joel? Well, we could argue with that, but it's backed up with a flashback where we saw how Joel killed her dad, as he was the surgeon who should operate on Ellie. Now, who is the bad guy here? But after that, her story is just boring and she hasn't any bigger plans, except snorting pre-workout. The only few things you do with her are go help the camp, flashback. Reunite with your lover, flashback. Get into some steamy action, flashback. The most important and interesting thing what happened to Abby is how she got caught, where she meets the two scarred kids and got banned from her camp because of helping those kids. Because helping kids is bad, okay? Don't do it. It's not worth it apparently. After that, it's just boring stuff where you need to help the kid because her arm got crushed, then go to the hospital to get some medical stuff, then you go to pick it up, but oh no, it's not there, let's go to the basement, then you will encounter a big mushroom daddy. Then you kill him, then you return, oh no, your friends got killed, let's escape, then you escape with the Scar Kids, then you got caught by the wolves, let's execute every friend you knew for years, because why not? Isaac is also there, let's kill him too, because his death isn't important, am I right? Now what has that got to do with Ellie, Debbie and Tommy? I almost forget they existed, but they wanna connect us with Abby because of the ending, but it's just landing flat. But let's take the spotlight on the Scar Boy. It's a way how Naughty Dog again tried to manipulate us in some way. As Abby is the big and masculine character, she could act as Joe, and the little Scar Kid with his innocence can be someone like Ellie. So you see where I'm getting at? It could be a potential DLC at one point in the time. It's not that Abby couldn't be a likable character, but how she was presented was just too hollow. They could make up an important task with Abby and then show Ellie into the mix to track her down or something like that, but Naughty Dog didn't thought this out so good. The biggest problem with Abby is that she's driven by revenge and hate, and she's not showing any remorse for her action. She tortured and killed Joel, killing a half a dozen's friend and killing almost a pregnant lady with a sinister laugh and probably a huge hard-on. She hasn't made any single dialogue where she is given remorse. Like what? It's also okay if the character should be portrayed in that way, but yet again the game throws some flashback into the mix where we should feel empathy because she is somewhat a good character. But then again remember what she'd all done, especially travel around a whole country just to torture Joel, and somehow in the fight with Ellie she wanted to kill a pregnant lady. Comes a kid you met 2 days ago and he says stop, and you give up. I mean, why stop there? Simply, the writing isn't consistent and it's not logical on multiple occasions. But the biggest problem is when you spend, I will take now a wild guess, but around playing 8 hours with Abby, it was simply too much and it overstates its welcome. Please correct me if I'm wrong, now this would be a kick-ass DLC, but the Abby part shouldn't be pushed between Ellie's revenge story, but rather as a standalone DLC to expand on the existing story. You feel me? The whole story is based on a revenge story and how revenge is bad, okay kids? The story revolves, as I previously mentioned, that Abby's dad was killed and now Abby wants to seek revenge on Joel. She finds him during a mission to sneak into the town and suddenly meets Joel and leads him to her hideout, where she murders Joel in the most grotesque way imaginable. As I don't have any problems with gore and violence, it left me still shocked how they get rid of the main character of the game in the first hour of playing. But okay, like Joel, who was he anyway? Am I right? Hey, next time in the Uncharted game, let's kill Nathan at the beginning. Why do we need him and play as Sally? Okay, that sounds actually cool. Back to the point. This is a thing that will repeat itself on multiple occasions throughout the whole game just to shock the player. The story feels a bit rushed and underdeveloped because many characters you meet on the way you will see on few occasions and they got just killed, again just to shock the player. And then we see no emotional damage that Abby has felt. That chick is like a Terminator. But a game of this caliber should somehow address this, don't you think? As we are still talking about loss and depression and even PTSD at the end, this needed to be addressed as Abby is again a character we spend 1/3 of the game and she fills Joel's shoes as the second character. But the novelty of how our friends are getting killed on each step quickly wears off and it becomes just how the game is pacing. And what's up with the pregnant women in the game? Like Abby's friend was 8 months pregnant and a paramedic, and let's send her off to the front lines. Give that bitch a cannon.
Give that bitch a cannon. Bitches love cannons.
Bitches love cannons.
The first part was such a masterpiece of a game, we couldn't find it anywhere else on this round football called Earth. How Joel got his only loving family member got killed in his arms, then he gets introduced to Ellie and an optimistic which he grows to love and play a father figure to it, even being a sad and nihilistic old man, and then at the end the somehow selfish act to not give Ellie to the Fireflies to undergo the surgery because of the fact she would lose her, and the whole ongoing relationship with Joel and Ellie was just perfect. But here is just revenge is bad, don't do that, let's kill Joel. Feel bad? Let's kill a dog. Feel even worse? Let's kill a pregnant lady to top it all off. Like what the fuck? Naughty Dog, you showed us how you can craft an incredible story like the Uncharted, what was almost family friendly content. I mean, if you wanted to take a violence approach into the game, it's not a problem, but at least connect the dots and make some sense and don't make it boring. Before Joel's head was used as a golf ball, we can remember him from the first game as a bitter old man who lost trust in humanity just like me. His loss of his daughter is something that scarred him for life. As Ellie got introduced to the story, they started to grow on us as characters and we wanted just more over time. But let me take you back to a point where Ellie and Joel were driving throughout the city where they saw apparently a wounded man. Joel, without thinking twice, says he's faking it. And he was correct, it was a trap. He has a special survival instinct which he developed over time. Now he is more than aware of how many people want to see his head as a golf ball, or apparently not, because he proceeds to trust Abby to go to their hideout, not knowing of what could happen, and then just stating his name, favorite food, the location they stay, the bands he's love. Yeah, I maybe overdone it, but it was so out of character for Joel that I almost cringe of how could this happen. Joel was always cautious, but it was clear from the start that Naughty Dog wanted to put the old dog down. Now, if Abby did somehow kill Joel, but at the ending of the game, Abby will jump back and forth, this story would make so much more sense. Like Joel and Ellie were fighting side by side to get a certain objective done, and then shit hits the fan and Abby kills Joel, but left Ellie alone, and then she goes from the others to stay at peace with her new family. A better story than we saw in the game, my god. But to kill Joel off just for the sake of killing him was a great face in a potential character who could carry the story. And then replacing him with Abby was a bold move, like shifting from the 6th gear into the rocket mode and then realizing that the air is not standing for rocket mode but rather reverse. Same thing happened in this story. At this point I didn't know what to expect and I thought the farm chapter was the last, but I was wrong. Debbie has given birth and they both live at the farm, far away from everyone. What was okay, but that closer look we saw that Ellie has PTSD. Gosh, wonder why. Then arrives Tommy, the brother of Joel, and he has changed his mind for the 3rd time in this game and now he wants to go after Abby once again. Ellie goes away despite Debbie begging to stay. stay. We switch again to Abby and see how Abby is basically living each day with no remorse of what happened. Ellie decided to go after her, and I need to mention I love this chapter because of the setting. It was a real change from Seattle and I really enjoyed it, but I would even enjoy it more if the story didn't drag my ass on broken glass the whole time. As Abby got captured, she was later rescued by Ellie, and they both get into a brutal fisting fight, and not in a good way, where Ellie in the end lets away Abby go. Oh, you wanna see also how Ellie changed throughout the game? She wanted to slit the throat of an injured child laying unconscious on a boat. Yeah, let that sit for a while. If we can analyze the story and see what went wrong, I don't know even where to start, because Ellie left in a healthy relationship with Debbie and her babies so she can kill Abby, but then after a flashback she couldn't kill Abby. Now Ellie returns back, realizing that Debbie and the baby are gone, but also her two fingers are gone because Abby bit them off because she needed extra protein. And then we saw Ellie playing the guitar as she wanders off into the woods. An extremely unsettling and depressing scene. The irony is that Ellie lost everything she had, and yet on the other side Abby can once again live normally. What makes again no sense whatsoever. One more problem I encountered is, and please comment down below if you also thought about this, but the emphasis of the zombies is gone. Literally nobody's talking about the infection, the cure, the fungus, the problems. Okay, I know of course there were some dialogues, but it's boiled down to such a small degree that I'm feeling like I'm not playing the same game anymore. The first game was built around this, but the second game throws this all out of the window and it revolves only around human relations and problems. And the zombie outbreak is somehow a second thing. I was really amazed about the fungus virus that I made a dedicated video just around it. Let's talk a bit about Ellie. Ellie was that small optimistic girl who didn't know how to whistle and how to shatter someone's skull with a pipe, who got caught with Joel on this grand adventure. Throughout the whole first story we learned so much about her. What she likes, what she thinks, her fears. We bonded with her. But after beating the second game, she wasn't the same Ellie I remembered. Or better to say, it's not the Ellie what I expected to see. She acts so recklessly and so violently without thinking. Now she spends the most time with Joel, so she couldn't learn any better, am I right? But still, Joel, despite being a grumpy old man, he had some good heart in him. How Ellie got caught in this goddamn mess left just a huge question mark above my head. I mean, the revenge story, okay, but leaving everything behind multiple times, not addressing Jesse's death, and so many brutal decisions. But looking back at Joel, he couldn't leave Ellie in the hospital, and then looking at the bar scene, the second someone raised his voice against Ellie, he stood up. Do you know what I mean? So we can tell she didn't learn about love and compassion. But at least she felt some remorse and faced some consequences, because she clearly has post-traumatic syndrome. Looking at the last chapter, she left her family to kill the Hulk lady, and then after the fight lets Abby just go, after risking everything for the second time. It's just beyond me. And I'm still confused, why did the writer think it's okay? I think they made this on purpose so they can use Abby as a future DLC maybe, and again Ellie for the next game. Think about it, Ellie has nothing. She's left alone in a cruel world. It's a perfect setting for the next game. Maybe somehow Ellie wants to go for Debbie, I don't know. That are just my suspicions. You can tell me yours down below, like always. The Last of Us 2 isn't a bad game, but it isn't a good game either. I wanted to love this game so much like I did the first game, but so many questions started to pop up, so many red alerts. I just can't oversee the things they did, how they dragged too long with Abby, which was a boring character, and then the fight between Ellie and Abby where we supposed to have mixed feelings, but I really hope that Abby would bite the dust, then killing Joel and not giving us a proper replacement, the bazillion random characters we meet just to see 5 minutes later to get killed, it had so many problems that I don't wanna even call this game a sequel to the first part. It's so different, so out of touch. It's not a bad game, but it's a bad sequel. I wanted to love this game so much like I loved the first part, but I just couldn't, and no wonder why the meta score is looking like it is. I want to try stay positive throughout the whole video, but it was hard. But somehow I still enjoyed the game because some of the flashbacks, sometimes because of the chaotic combat, and we don't need to mention the graphics and the sounds, they are just pure eye candy. And then how they let us to explore Seattle and many other memorable places. But I'm now out of breath. Let me know down below your thoughts about The Last of Us 2. Thanking you for sticking to the end of the video, I really appreciate it. If you want to take the extra step, consider joining my guild on Patreon. I didn't plan to do such a long video, but I just couldn't conclude it into few sentences. Hope you enjoyed this video as much I enjoyed making it. Now would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, remember to share my video, to check out my other videos, and I see you in the next one. Snorky, over and out.
I'll see you around.
Yep.